Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today. Here with the Conscious Men's Collective with myself and Shane Alexander. Shane is going to be coming on in just a moment to answer some interview questions that I have for him. We just wanted to spend a little bit of time giving you all the opportunity to get to know us a little more and why we're doing this work, why we're doing it together, and what it means to us. So Shane's going to be joining us in just a moment. And we'll ask him some important questions. Here he is. Hello. It's going great.
Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, brother. Great to see you. So Shane, you and I have been getting to know each other pretty thoroughly over the last few months. But it's easy to forget that the people out there listening don't really know you or I as well as we know one another. So this is a good opportunity for me to ask you some questions and for us all to get to know you a little bit more.
Nice.
So how you feeling today?
A little nervous, but yeah, okay.
Good. That's masculine vulnerability right there for you. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Okay, so number one, where the heck are you right now?
I'm in the Mato River Valley here in California, upper northern California, visiting a friend of mine, staying here for a little bit.
Awesome.
Doing some road trip travels with my partner, Drea.
Fantastic. Cool. So, well, beyond just the now, the moment, let's go back a little bit. Just let us know where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing, and just the primary forces that you feel shaped you into who you are today. The excellent example of masculinity that I've come to know and love. What made you who you are?
Right. I feel like I got here through my own little rough and tumble version. I was born in Virginia, Chesapeake, Virginia. Grew up in between Virginia and North Carolina. My parents divorced when I was young, when I was 3 years old, and my mother raised me and my older brother, 2 years older than me. He and I were super close growing up. It's like wrestled, play sports, that kind of thing.
I didn't know you were a wrestler too.
You know, not professional or school-wise, more just like in the yard every day, kind of
Okay.
older brother and
As brothers should.
basketball, that kind of thing. And my mother raised me and my brother as Jehovah's Witnesses, and that was a really big influence in my life. And I stayed with the faith of Jehovah's Witnesses to the age of 28, and then left that faith and I continued on my own kind of spiritual seeking path in these last 12 years since then, and grew up on that. Spent about 13 years on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and then moved out to Kauai and spent the last 8 years in Kauai, and throughout my adult life supported myself through a plumbing career, being in like mostly like new construction plumbing, and then in Kauai a little bit of everything, plumbing mixed with landscaping, mixed with whatever it took to pay the rent kind of thing out there. And currently was married when I was 20 and for 4 years, and then went through a divorce. Started a plumbing business in my mid-20s and filed for bankruptcy years later. I've kind of gone through the ups and downs of a lot of different things in my life. I'm currently with a partner, my partner Drea, for the last little over 2 years now. We've been dating and building a relationship together, and some beautiful adventures. But that's a kind of short, quick synopsis of some highlights.
Yeah. Well, I just want to ask, what do you think you gained from the Jehovah's Witness faith, like in bringing that unique expression of yourself into this work that we're doing? What do you think that brought to your character?
Yeah, it's shaped me a lot. It brought me into the world with through the eyes, looking at everything through the eyes of spirituality. And kind of raised me with that lens of like keeping a close eye on what my own spiritual health is. And of course, it was kind of from their perspective and within the religion's context of whether it was good or bad or healthy or not. But as
There's a lot of judgment.
there's, and you know, I could probably do a whole podcast on on what it is to be inside that faith and to leave that faith. And I guess mostly what I feel is important to speak at this moment is that it took me a while to wrestle my own spirituality back to within myself after I left the faith. But to come to see and understand the need for me to take care of my own spirituality and to no longer have to have it interpreted for me by someone else, but just for me to have my own connection with the life force energy that animates me, and to like know that as my truth, and to see how having a relationship with myself and my own spirit, how that shapes my worldview and how I see that lacking in a lot of people around me. And I see it also that our spirit is speaking to us all beyond any religion. It's speaking to us directly just by being alive. And that there's a need, I feel, on the planet for us to awaken to that voice coming through that's layered right in with the very life force that we are. There's also a voice kind of teaching us how to be alive and how to feel our connection with all other life and how to take our place and our stand in this family of life, and how to kind of be in a cooperative, harmonious frame of mind with the rest of life.
Beautiful. So, and what we're taking on here is specifically, you know, I mean, it's men's work. I mean, we're slanting this to a degree towards men. And I've, of course, got my own opinions of that and why and all that. But
right.
Why have you felt drawn to really say, you know, men's work, not just spirituality, but I'm going to focus on men? Why is that important to you?
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question. In one way, it's the simplest way for me to start the spiritual work. One, because I am a man and I can kind of like speak to other men directly and address the needs as I know them most personally.
Because we can only know, yeah.
You know, and so it's not as easy to be teaching a woman on spirituality. It's easier to teach other men, like my own experience and my own growth into the spirituality. And I also am speaking to it more directly because of a lot of my life lessons have showed me where I've been way out of balance in my own masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of been, even though I was out of balance with my masculinity, I was not out of sync with the society that I was living in.
Right. So it was reinforced. A lot of those things that you've come to observe were actually supported by the societal framework that you were in.
Right. And they were showing up as problems in my relationships and problems with myself. And then when I would get to the heart of the truth of it, I would find out that I was not living my truth, and nor was I having genuine connection with female partners or friends or lovers in my life, because I was in a state of disconnect from it. And as I allowed my women to teach me these things and to like change and shapeshift my own life, the wisdom comes in as I have my own aha moments and I shed different layers of like bad habits and old layers of skin that are no longer serving me. These are the things I wish to share with other men, because I see them as ways that we are sabotaging ourselves and ways that we're kind of living in a real like tight corner of our own house, in a boxed in place of our own being, and we're not living in our full expression and our full power. And I really feel like the world, in fact, is suffering from men living this way. And not that women don't have things to work on, but I feel like the masculine imbalance is more at the crux of the problems of our society right now.
Well said.
Speak to it more directly. And I feel as men hold themselves into check with these things, it's going to be very easy for women to fall into sync with that. And they're going to be responding to the way that men are responding back to them. And I feel like a lot of our imbalance is through like the ignoring of this conversation with women already. And the more we hear it and invite it back in and work with it, women are kind of already trying to have this conversation with us. And I feel like if we address it from the men's angle, it's probably the quickest and the most potent way to speak of it at the moment. And the way I feel most authentic addressing it.
Well, it's easier to recognize that we know the challenges from the inside, right?
Yeah, I've lived these things. You know, I've seen what served me and what hasn't served me, and I've seen suppression of things even within my faith of Jehovah's Witnesses, suppression of sexuality, and I've seen masculine domination of femininity, and through old traditions, they often lean on those things as well. As almost excuses or allowances for abuse because it's for a long time, you know, and it gets swept under the rug of those kind of things, and it's kind of blindly not acknowledging the damage that it's doing right now in front of you. And
yeah, it's hard to see beyond that stuff as a man, isn't it?
Yes, you know, and for someone who's been surrounded by people on intense spiritual paths for most of my life, I realize how rare and precious this kind of knowledge is. And that's why I'm doing my best to speak it and live it and shine it as bright as I can.
You're doing beautiful work.
Thanks.
Well, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and we only have a couple minutes left because we're going to try to keep this short, but you know, I'm tempted to ask you about Conscious Men's Collective and how you feel about it, but we already know that. I want to ask you about peace work.
Okay.
Give me a quick overview of why you think this is important, relevant, and a key principle for you.
Yeah, it's one of my fundamental passions in keeping is I see us all as creators, and we get to collectively create what's happening on the planet. And our personal vision is not negligible. So I encourage everyone to take responsibility for what they're creating on the planet, and to be careful with belief systems that say like, oh, there's always been war, or there's always going to need to be an army, and there's always going to need to be war. And that in itself is a belief system that holds the present world in the state that it's in. And if you wish to see a world that's different from that, then you need to create the different world and take responsibility for creating peace in your life. And the beginning of that is to hold the vision of a world that is capable of living in peace and harmony, and to begin to make a life commitment to pursuing and establishing and creating that peace where you do not see it. And this is what I'm here to speak about. And it's by beginning to do this, to take a step in this direction, or to make that commitment, we begin to see where we're unable, where we're having resistance to it already. And this is where the war still lives inside of each one of us. And as we address that, we will see the change happen on our planet.
So this is, when you say peace work, it's like peace work within the self, and
Yes.
peace work with our closest relations, and peace work with our identity that we live out in the world, and peace work with the world at large. I mean, so it's like peace work. It's not like about going and trying to make world peace happen. It's about starting with the self, right?
Yeah, it's holding the vision of world peace as the ultimate goal, and starting to work with how you have resistance to it inside, and your closest partners will show you where you're not at peace.
So it's through relationship that we can see the fruits of this stuff most quickly, right?
Yes, and we'll see where we have trouble with peace, and then we'll have the challenge of working through that conflict in a peaceful way. And as we do that, as we successfully navigate through conflict in peaceful ways, we start to establish healthier we build trust, and we build stronger relationships, stronger friendships. And as we do this, that's the natural spreading of the peace work. Our peace bubble starts to grow, and we start to share these tools of peace work with each other on how to like move through peaceful conflict and how to heal the problems that we're being shown that are coming up inside of us. And as we navigate those, we have that knowledge and wisdom to pass on to each other, and that peace bubble grows. And we keep while we're doing that work at home in our closest relationships, we hold the vision of everyone doing the same work that we're doing,
Right.
and that we all meet up as we grow that bubble out, that we learn how to handle conflict on major scale because we've learned how to handle it on interpersonal scale already.
Yeah, and we support each other in that too, don't we?
Yes, and it's very easy to link up with other peace workers around the world without even knowing them, because we're already working towards the same thing before we meet each other. And that's how we hold the vision of it.
It's kind of how it felt when we got together, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I would look forward to just talking to you about this for hours, but we're going to cut it off today. And so thanks for your time, Shane. Thank you for your authenticity and your bravery, and for doing this work and living it.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor.
You're welcome. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for joining us today to really receive and see and honor Shane. And thanks for joining us here at Conscious Men's Collective. Again, you can find us on the internet. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, or on SoundCloud. Listen to more of our podcasts, watch videos, and tune in as much as possible. Let's keep growing this message. Thank you.